Good evening. Just call to order tonight's town board meeting for June 19th, 2018. If we could start by standing to say the pledge. Bob, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Jim, I'll turn it
And
over.
Diane.
And Diane.
As we do with every meeting, we like to start off with an invocation, and we're very pleased to have part of our faith community, the Reverend Janet Wright.
Good evening. And I'm sorry you all sat down, but we're doing a little exercise this evening, would you mind? Thank you. And I know that everyone is kind of excited this evening. I can feel the energy in the room, so I'm just gonna say I hope everything will remain respectful. So please pray with me. O God of many names, we pray for your presence here this evening with our leaders and lawmakers. May you invest in all of us here a sense of divine justice, the freedom that invites us to be responsible for every human being's dignity and well-being. We pray for your presence in our communities and our families, that the ties that bind us not be burdensome, but freely chosen bonds of interdependence upon each other. Invite us, O Holy One, to be free of blame, anxiety, guilt, anger, and fear towards ourselves and others. May we be a blessing to one another. We ask this blessing by whatever way or name we call you, in great confidence that you will hear and love us all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Wright.
Thank you. And can I get a first and second for approval of the minutes for the town board meeting of June 5th, 2018?
I move we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
We have two seconds.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
second and a third. Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. And I'll just go into the reports. Town clerk monthly report for May, $10,818.02. Tax receiver total tax collection to date as of June 14th, $154,546,561.65. Tax receiver April utility collection report, $318,577.55. Under correspondence, we had 5 letters in response to the Q&E hearing for CAT, and that is at the EPCAL property. 4 letters emailed from residents giving word of signing a petition titled Protect Riverhead with Covenants in EPCAL Contract. There was also a letter from the Northfield Beach Civic Association, and that letter was concerning the proposed special permit application and public hearing of URT. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Before we move into the public hearings, I would just like to make 2 announcements. One is that we just received from the MTA, and they would just like the public to be aware that maintenance is taking place on East Main Street here at the 25A at the grade crossing in Riverhead. So tonight it will be closed from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So just take care when you're leaving here, and the work, while the work is in progress, the crossing will be fully closed to road traffic. The LIRR and the MTA police will provide the necessary crossing protection. In addition, Riverhead Police or fire departments have been contacted, and the LIRR will make every effort to complete effective repairs tonight, but if necessary, work will continue tomorrow evening again from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. if they're not allowed to repair everything. And just one more announcement, because it's a request that I've been hearing, and we were able to confirm this just before the meeting, that starting this Saturday, June 23rd, all bathrooms at Reeves Beach, Wading River Beach, Iron Pier Beach, and South Jamesport Beach will remain open until 7 p.m. And this will continue throughout the summer, 7 days a week. unless, they will be subject to close if it's, raining for the full day, and this will continue throughout Labor Day weekend, so very good to hear that so that everyone can make use of the beaches. So after those two announcements, we will move into public hearing. The first hearing is scheduled for 7:05. It is now 7:07. The first one is the consideration of a local law to amend chapter 251 of Riverhead Town Code entitled Noise, Public Nuisance, and Property Maintenance, Article 3, Rubbish, Refuge, and Rank Vegetation, Bamboo. So if there's anybody who would like to come up and comment on that public resolution, I ask you to come forward now.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for holding this public meeting. I'd also like to
We're
thank,
just gonna, when you come up, you just need to state your name and where you're from.
my name is Carol Isles. I am the current president of the Long Island Nursery and Landscape Association. We're a professional organization of horticulturalists, and we strive to educate and increase the level of professionalism in our industry. The association is comprised largely of landscape contractors, landscape architects and designers, some landscape maintenance contractors, and nursery growers. Of that portion of our membership, they are largely in Riverhead Town. I spoke at the last hearing before we had the redraft, and I appreciate some of the changes that you made, especially as it refers to agricultural production and having that exempt, and we really appreciate that. One thing that wasn't addressed, and I know that Nora Kalin over at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I do have her comments here that I will submit with my own, that she strongly recommended that the clumping bamboo be exempt, that it should be taken off the regulations. You still have it defined, and you still have it outlined as being part and parcel of the running bamboo. This family of bamboo is something that has been studied by the Invasive Species Council on the New York State level, that had been covered in the invasive species law. The clumping bamboo was never even on the radar as being invasive or as in any way aggressive. Does not cause harm to property or to the environment. It is something very distinctly different, although it is in the bamboo family. Like I said, it is in a subfamily that is not invasive. It does have horticultural value, however, and that horticultural value directly impacts the nursery industry here in Riverhead Town and across Long Island. As you know, if they can grow it and they can sell it, it's certainly an advantage, and I thank you for putting that in this redraft, but it does not help with the perception. So if the perception is that all bamboo is bad, then that will carry forward, and that we just strongly recommend that you consider taking that clumping bamboo off this regulation, off the amendments that you propose. The running bamboo that is banned, the two major species that are banned through the New York State invasive species law, and that has been in effect since 2015, and Ag and Markets diligently enforces that. So we can honestly say that the offensive bamboo that you've been getting complaints about was planted well prior to that, and I'm sure it's probably decades old. And the people whose properties it resides on haven't been maintaining it and haven't been containing it. The clumping bamboo does not fall into that category. So I will leave my comments and a letter from LINLA, as well as from Cornell University, and there will be one coming from the State College of Farmingdale, the Department of Urban Horticulture.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have those letters for the record?
Yes, we will.
Is there anybody else who wanted to address the board on this issue?
props.
Arrest that man, he has a bamboo plant.
That is a bamboo.
It's contained.
Hi, my name is Jim Glover. I'm a grower in Cutchogue of bamboo, among many other things. I learned in speech class a long time ago, it's much better to have props with you. Take the attention off of you. So I'm just gonna hold it here as my sidekick here. This is Fargesia robusta. Probably the most common Fargesia in the nursery trade. This plant will get about 10 feet tall at maturity. I have 3 on my own property I've had for 10 years. 10 foot tall at the base, the clump, and the word is clump, and aptly so, because the clump is about 3.5 feet in diameter. So I bring that to your attention because I can think of many plants in the nursery trade. Think of Forsythia as an example. Much more aggressive spreading tendency. I don't think we're here to ban Forsythia today. This plant is among several species of Fargesias. There's other genera I know mentioned in your definitions of clumping bamboos, but Fargesias is, for all intents and purposes, the genus of clumping bamboos that the nursery industry and the horticultural industry in general is using. Anyway, so we've been growing these for many years, both in the ground and in our nursery, and I'm just here to underscore what Carol said, that clumping bamboos are a completely different plant, if you will, and that they should be considered a benign horticultural product, one that should be treated no different than a rhododendron or azalea, as far as the need for any regulations are concerned. I would be happy to email anyone a picture I just took of my 10-foot tall Fargesias and what they look like right now after 10 years in the ground. But I'll just say this, they're an amazing hedge. If you want a privacy screen, plant Fargesias. Because they don't spread, you don't have to worry about the invasiveness, and they stay evergreen.
Is that a shameless pitch?
10 foot tall. No, it's really to underscore why they're so desirable, because they really are an effective landscape plant. We only grow small ones. There are nurseries that grow large specimens. I don't, but maybe others here in the audience will be able to talk about that. But my pitch is for removing this from the legislation.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
For the clumping bamboo, does the spread have anything to do with, are there some clumping bamboos that spread further, or is it based on the height? You know, if you say this one 10 feet tall will only spread 3.5 feet, is that true for all kinds of clumping bamboo, or do they have a larger reach than that for some of them?
No, there's a very strong distinction, between the species that are labeled clumping. They're labeled that because of simply each year the diameter increase is measured in inches, not feet. And all the Fargesias I'm aware of are very much so clumping. I cannot speak to all the species you mentioned in your legislation, but Fargesias being the genus that we in the nursery industry grow, these are truly clumping. Now, when I say they're 3.5 feet at the base, that's where the stems emerge from the ground. It actually will vase shape out from there, and it will be broader than that up in the canopy, at say 6 and 8 and 10 feet high. But they're truly a a benign plant that really should be stricken from the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rodney Anderson, here for a couple of reasons. I have a small nursery. I grow Fargesias. I've grown large ones up to, some of the ones I've sold were probably 5-6 feet across, taken out with giant tree spades, but they were there for 20 years or more. I don't have any left. They keep asking me for them, but I don't have any left. Everything I have left is small. Asking about some of the questions you had about the plant and the different types. Just as a reference to that, Fargesia is the genus that is generally the only one hardy enough to grow here. There are many others that are out there, but as far as our climate goes, you can't grow them. I get a little confused because I've actually been a member of the American Bamboo Society, so I've been to Florida, to California, to all over involved with this. So I've seen a lot of them that I know can't grow here. Some of them are massive. They grow hundreds of feet tall. But of course, we can't grow them here. They're tropical, subtropical. So the Fargesia that he has, top of my head, I want to say there's 6 or 8 species that are like that. Most of them are lower. I grow some that will max out at about 3 to 4 feet. That's in height. That's all they grow. And like he says, they open up like an ornamental grass. There are ornamental grasses grown that will grow faster and spread faster than a Fargesia will. Also here as part of Long Island Farm Bureau, I'm on the Farm Select Committee for the town, involved with that. As you all know, I was involved in the last time this came up, put some input into that, and I wanted to know if I could ask a question, because I know, or it's my understanding that the town attorney rewrote the legislation. The legislation went to Codes Committee, and Codes Committee basically went back to the old one with a couple of minor changes. Is that a committee that the public is allowed to be involved with when that discussion happens, or how does that work?
Well, I think at the last meeting that there was a question to reach out to Cornell Cooperative Extension for advice on the code, and I believe that's who the committee had met with. And then we of course have the public hearing.
Who would they have met with? Because I know I talked to Nora, and Nora said that nobody talked to her, and she's been the one that's been talking with us.
Actually, Nora looked over everything and emailed changes on it. She made suggestions, and then I passed those along to the Code Revision Committee and passed along her information to the committee. And we did take a lot of, we've put a lot of time and effort into this. I never thought I'd be such an expert on bamboo, but we have been, listening to what the community is saying. And really in Riverhead, it's a fine line because it's an agricultural community, so we're trying to be, careful about that. So we are listening to what people are saying tonight, and I'll bring that information back as well. And because even though we've worked on this a long time, we want to get it right.
All right, because I have a letter from Nora. I have a copy for each of you. I talked to Nora as well, and seemed like she had a different understanding of how things went. But I have a letter from her for you. She couldn't be here tonight, so I came as representative. I just wanted to highlight 2 statements that she made out of it. And again, I got copies for each of you to leave. And one of them is, it is the understanding, the need to find a way to address situations in which bamboo is encroaching onto neighbors' properties. However, there seems to be little current regulatory need to ban the planting or replanting of running bamboos. And then in another one, paragraph she has there is no scientific evidence to support the need to ban the planting of clumping bamboos, which is some of the topics I wanted to get into a little bit with it. For one, I completely agree with landowners' rights. And I agree with every person that's gonna stand up here and say that they have an issue with their neighbor not taking care of a plant that is on their land. And I know legally they're allowed remediation. I know there's court cases that have gone across the country where landowners have been supported. Someone planted bamboo, it ran across onto other people's property, it got remediated, and the landowner who originally had the bamboo had to pay the bill. I don't know if you look it up, there are a lot of court cases that involve that, and it goes through there. So there is remediation. I agree with making a town code stating that. I have no issue with that. I stated that at the last meeting. And I also believe in containment. If someone has it, they should have containment. I still go back to a few issues that I do have. For one, if it's on a roadside, I still question, I haven't had a chance to talk to Gio about it. With the highway superintendent, I'd be curious how he would feel about someone taking a piece of machinery and having to dig up alongside a road, be it not just the roadway, but utilities and everything else, because they need to put in some kind of barrier. Because as I read this legislation, it says that if it's by a road, you're responsible for it and you have to block it off to that road. So that would mean someone would need to dig that up. And I know some of the bamboo places that have bamboo around here are on hillsides, which makes a whole nother situation for someone to go in and have to dig things up. Like I said, I haven't had the chance to talk to Gio to find out how he would feel about that whole thing. I know the notes that I made last time said that they should be responsible for maintaining it, and I agree with that. They need to cut it, prune it, whatever they need to do to maintain it. But for the remediation of going in and digging everything up, I really have to question. And I know a lot of this goes back to misinformation and hysteria about bamboo. People hear the word bamboo and they go crazy. You know, they think the worst of the worst, when the state already banned the worst of the worst. And that's already been taken care of because they know that it's an issue. And meanwhile, as I said last time, there are bamboos that literally grow 3 to 4 inches high that are technically considered running bamboos. I've been to places where they have it as a lawn. Instead of planting grass, they grow bamboo. It's a dwarf bamboo that they grow. They don't have to mow it, maintain it, don't have to do anything to it. It's just one of them oddities, not something I would do, I won't have an interest in. But it's the idea that horticulturally, there are a lot of things you're taking away from being allowed to use in a landscape design, or even a collector like myself, with no real scientific need to do it. Again, I understand the homeowners that have an issue. I believe we should support them, and they have the right to that. I have no question with that whatsoever. The other part of this that I didn't quite get was it says you're allowed to grow, buy, and sell it, but you can't plant it. So if, as a grower, I sell it to someone, they're gonna buy a product that they can't plant. That's how I read it. Is that what it says?
Well, I think you can have it as a house plant, you can have it as some kind of decorative, but you can't plant it if it goes through it the way it is presently, that's correct.
And
You can still buy it, but you would not be able to plant it in your yard, both running and clumping. I'm looking at some of the other towns where we're having this discussion, for example,
Right, because I know-
Babylon just defines bamboo without distinguishing between running and clumping. Brookhaven, I see they ban running, and they have a duty to confine all bamboo must be confined, whether it's running, clumping, or otherwise. So looking at some of the other towns as we were having this discussion, see what they've done to address it.
Because that's part of Nora's notes, the question of why would there be a necessity to ban something that spreads, you know, a clumping bamboo that doesn't spread.
As I said, I'm looking at some of the other towns, and they
Right.
have a duty to confine clumping as well.
No, I understand that. I just, again, I asked just like Linda asks and everything else, science and
You would have no
horticulture is
objection-
behind it.
You would have no objection if clumping bamboo there was an obligation to confine.
Well, I
On
would
your
just
pro-
on the
on your
fact that it wouldn't make
property.
sense.
Right.
I would just on the fact that it wouldn't make any sense. That's like the gentleman said forsythia, saying you need to put a barrier around forsythia, because forsythia spreads. So, does it make sense to say you need to put a barrier around a forsythia plant, or an ornamental grass? You know, again, I'm just looking at it from a science and common sense perspective. It just, I don't understand that. I mean, so I would have to say, yes, I would be against the idea of confining a clumping bamboo that doesn't go anywhere. Confining a running bamboo, no problem. Understood. Again, especially with people's property rights and things, I know that the notes that I gave last time made the same comment, especially if you're anywhere near a property line, it would be mandatory to put in some kind of barrier. So if you're planting it somewhere, it would become mandatory to put in a barrier within certain footage.
I think part of the issue with the bamboo, especially the running bamboo, is the difficulty in if it invades in your property from somebody else's property, the difficulty in removing it and keeping it at bay. I think that's why so many places have addressed the bamboo, because if the running bamboo goes from one property to the next, the difficulty in removing it is so great, as opposed to some of the other plants.
Right, and that's why you would make it financially burdensome on the person planting the bamboo, that they would have to deal with the remediation.
Right.
Again, like I said, there are court cases about that, that follow through because of that same reason. So that becomes the whole thing. I mean, I kinda look at it as, well, he made a joke about an animal, but it's like a dog. If you have a dog and the dog keeps running on the other person's property, you're responsible for that dog. And you have to do something to fix that situation, and you're financially responsible for any damage he does and everything else. But it doesn't mean the town would ban dogs. You
Well,
know,
I
look
think-
at it from that sense.
I think that's why we're having the public hearing. I think that this is an issue with a lot of facets to it. So I think that's exactly why we're having the public hearing, so we can get the comments from everybody involved, before the town would make a decision on it, so we appreciate that.
And I appreciate the fact that you guys look at this again, and like I said, I just ask that you take science into the whole thing. I have copies of Nora's notes for each of you from,
And we'll have
From
Diane
Cornell.
take them this way, they go into the public record, and then we all get a
absolutely.
copy of it.
Absolutely, there's an extra copy in there, so they have.
And Rodney, I just wanna say that we appreciate you guys coming and, giving us feedback on it, we're happy to have it, and I'll take your feedback back to the group and we'll take another look at it. As I said, we wanna get it right.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Is there anybody else that wanted to address this topic?
How you doing? I'm Adrian, my first name is Adrian, I live in, Wading River. Not in the horticultural or any kind of business like that, I'm not a panda, so I don't know anything about bamboo.
Can I just ask you to say your name again? I didn't hear that.
My first name's Adrian, my last name's Hark.
Thank you.
All I can tell you is that annually, due to the age of my house, is built in pre-1900, it's situated like 6 feet from the property line. And my neighbor planted it on their side a decade ago, and now annually, I have to go into my front yard and dig up the, I guess, rhizomes or the roots of the plant spread over the property line. I have to dig it up every year to make sure it's not gonna go underneath my porch, invade my fieldstone foundation to the house, and cause me even more money than it's gonna cost me to dig up what I got going on. As far as suing somebody to recoup the cost, I'm not gonna sue somebody over the couple $100 every year I gotta do it. That would just be silly. I'm not doing that. What I need is an ordinance that, like this one, that spells out what you can and cannot do, with proper fines for the person that's unwilling, even though I've asked multiple times, for them to abate, if you wanna go, or whatever, just have their proper responsibility of their properties and taking responsibility for something that they did that's now causing me to do a task every year. It's ridiculous. Problems I have with the law, you've written down that a barrier necessary for abatement needs to be sufficient in depth. What does that mean? I can tell you right now that some people say it's 3 feet deep. I don't dig 3 feet, I never had to dig 3 feet. It's usually about 8 inches is what I've been doing, and I haven't found anything lower than that. But if I have to go 3 feet deep, that's a whole lot more cost than an 8-inch trench. What is an impervious barrier? Is it plastic? Is it some kind of landscaping cloth that's gonna break down over time? Do I have to put a concrete, wall sunken in the ground? What do you mean, you know what I mean? Like, and then is there a limit to the cost that I'm gonna be able to recoup from my neighbor if in the event that I do that? You
Well,
have
it would be your neighbor doing the remediation, not you.
Like, how am I gonna force her to do it? I mean, I thought I was gonna recoup, I thought I would have to pay from my side.
No, she would have to, or they would.
They would have to, I
remediate.
would have to lay it out, and then how would I get how would I,
No, if this goes through the way it's gonna go through, the property owner who has the invasive plant is the one that has to remediate the encroachment, it's not you.
right, so how do I get her to do that?
That's what the law will do, we'll get it into it.
So, well, I would just call the town and an inspector's gonna come in and,
If this law goes through, then, right, then complaints will be addressed through code enforcement, absolutely.
okay, then she gets, what do you go, fine. That's fair enough, what do you call it, but that doesn't stop the fact that if she just chooses to pay the fine, then I still have to do the task.
Well, I don't know how far we'll take it, I mean, if we have to go in and remediate and put it on a tax, I mean, I don't know where we're gonna go at the end, but the bottom line is it's gotta be remediated and abated.
Right.
One
And-
or another, whether she does it or we do it and charge her on her tax bill or whatever, it's not.
Okay, alright,
That was one of the biggest hurdles in this legislation to begin with, was that it really is a civil action between two neighbors, and the town attorney was very concerned about the town going litigation against civil matters, but I think it's important. And that's why I pursued it, and I'm thanking Catherine for her help and for being so diligent on it, but it's important, you know, you can't just, we've heard too many people, I think your wife came to the last public hearing.
she was here.
So, but it's a lot of good information, I think that the clumping, if it's not as invasive as the running, then that's something that we need to consider also, but, you know, no neighbor should be burdened by, you know, another property owner not maintaining their property properly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address this public hearing? Seeing nobody, I'm going to, close the public, comment and leave it open for written comment till June 29th.
Is that plant for sale, by the way?
Door prize.
Say afterwards.
Anne Marie, you want it?
Who said it's a door?
At this time, I'll open our second public hearing. It was supposed to begin at 7:10. It is 7:35. It's a consideration of special permit petition for North House Vineyards, Inc. to establish a bistro use at 1216 Main Road, Jamesport, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 0600-68-1-12.1. If there's anybody would like to come up and address this matter? Seeing no one, I will close the, public comment hearing and leave it open for written comment till June 29th. At this time, I'll call for our third public hearing, which was supposed to begin at 7:15. It is now, what'd I say, 7:35 before? 7:34 before, 7:35. The public hearing to consider a lease agreement with Big Belly Smart City Solutions, Big Belly Solar Inc. for Telebelly equipment, smart waste compactor plus cabinet for radio equipment and integrated 20-foot antenna at Jamesport Beach and Iron Pier Beach. If there's anybody that would like to come up and address this matter or speak?
They're here, and they
public
actually
hearing?
have a rendering, so, let me see if I can, someone
Is
can
anybody,
run
a
out.
representative here from Big Belly?
Yes, there's 3 of them that are here. Oh, they're there.
Would you like to come up and speak at all at the public comment section? It's up to you, if you'd like to, or you can choose not to, it's totally up to you.
But we can't hear you, so you gotta.
Would anybody, we did have a work session
had a work
presentation
session
on
with
this,
them,
is there
yeah,
anybody that wanted
I'm
to
fine with it.
have further information?
We had a work session. I just wanna say, I'm very thankful to Big Belly and Telebelly for reaching out to the town of
I don't
Riverhead.
like the name Big Belly.
This is the,
I gave it to him.
this is a pilot program, and Riverhead is one of the first towns in, Long Island that is actually going to be getting one of these Telebellies, which is a, telephone wire, the Big Belly solar trash compactors that will take the trash, it will compact the trash, it has a mechanism inside of it that will let buildings and grounds know when the garbage can is starting to get full, so they don't have to go to the beaches every day and empty the garbage cans. They'll get an indication on their cell phone saying the garbage can's getting full. So it's going to compact the garbage, it's going to save time as far as our buildings and grounds crew. Hopefully it's gonna keep our beaches clean, because we're going to be getting several of them at the Jamesport Beach. And, then we'll give it a trial run, we'll see what happens. We also have a lot of problems with telephone communication at the beaches, the signal just isn't strong. So Big Belly has partnered with Verizon to put the Telebelly, which has a 20-foot tall from the ground to the top, an antenna that has a flag where you can say what the surf conditions are on the flag for the day. So it's kind of, you can utilize it to also, as an advisory to the people that are going to the beach. It'll also provide telephone signal, which is a big safety concern that a lot of people have at the beaches, at least people that I speak to that go to the beaches, that say that they can't get out on their cell phones if there is an emergency. So it'll help with that also, and we're gonna give it a shot, and we wanna thank you for, bringing it to Riverhead. I've gotten several calls from several other municipalities that are interested, and I'm sure you've gotten those calls too, but we said Riverhead's first.
That's right.
So thank you.
Angela DeVito, South Jamesport. South Jamesport Beach, you mean the one at East Creek?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. And Did anybody else wanna go up and speak on this? Seeing nobody else, I will close this hearing and leave it open for public comment. Oh, actually, no, if it's okay with the board, is it okay if we close the hearing just to, having not had anybody from the public really comment? And so that we can vote on this resolution tonight
Yes,
because the
have a
beaches are
hearing,
opening?
right.
Yeah,
Okay, with,
that's great.
alright, so I'm going to close this hearing, and that will be it, I'm just closing that hearing. And now I will open the fourth, public of the hearing of the evening that was supposed to begin at 7:20, that is now 7:38, which is a consideration of a special permit petition, from United Riverhead Terminal, Inc., URT, to construct a new 28 by 45-foot pad with 6 biofuel tanks at 212 Sound Shore Road, Riverhead, Suffolk County tax map number 0600-7-1-2. Is anybody from the public that would like to come up and address us?
Are they gonna present
Yes.
first and then?
You know what, I'm gonna is there somebody from, United Riverhead Terminal that wants to come up and present, for the special permit first? Yep. We're just gonna have you present from the microphone there.
Okay. Before you start, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Vic Pershnowski, 533 Elton Street, Riverhead, New York. I'm a consultant for United Riverhead Terminal. We're here tonight for our special permit to construct biofuel tanks to comply with a new state law. They add 5% biofuel to home heating oil and also to provide biodiesel fuel for vehicles for customers. I have to present to the town clerk a affidavit of posting the property with a sign notice, sending out the certified mail as required by law, which I'll get to the clerk now. I also have, which I have one for the Northville Civic Association, a letter that was forwarded to us by the supervisor, Laura Jan Smith, with some questions concerning our application and our special permit hearing tonight. And I want to present, because some of these are corrections to our application, which were noted by the association's review. So I'm gonna give the clerk copies for the town board, copy for the association, and there's some minor changes which I'm preparing, and I'll resubmit the corrections to the planning department for the staff as part of their review. They're not changing the scope of this project or anything out there, just some questions that we just did not answer properly. I also have one here for the association president. So now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Mr. Nelson Happy, our vice president for Red Apple Group and United Riverhead Terminals, which will give you a brief outline of the application, and we're gonna be available tonight to answer any and all questions from the public and the town board.
Thank you.
My name's Nelson Happy, I'm the vice chairman of United Riverhead Terminal, and I
Mr. Happy,
was.
I'm gonna ask you
okay.
if you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. so
I
help you
do,
God? Thank you.
I received this afternoon a copy of the letter from the Northville Civic Association, and I prepared a response to it, and I don't think there's really too many controversial issues, if any, but I might just take a minute and read the letter. It's not long, and I think it covers most of the issues. The reason for the 108,000 gallon capacity of the biodiesel tanks is that in order to meet the heating oil needs of our market, we estimate blending about 3.5 million gallons of biodiesel per year into heating oil. In 2017, we had sales of 40.2 million gallons of heating oil, which is almost double what can be handled in our Calverton terminal. In summer months, people want to use higher blends of biodiesel, so we need the ability to custom blend different percentages of biodiesel at the truck rack. The volume of heating oil and diesel sales from Riverhead does not depend on whether or not it is blended with biodiesel. The volume of sales and of truck traffic from the terminal depends on market conditions. With regard to mixing biofuels with other products, the biodiesel will primarily be blended with heating oil to make bioheat, but it may also be blended with ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is called ULSD, to produce biodiesel blends for motor fuel use. Biodiesel cannot be blended with gasoline. As to the 6 biofuel tanks, as stated in the work session, we consent to a covenant as part of this approval process that these tanks will only be used for biodiesel additives for heating oil and diesel biofuel. As to the questions about the application, we correct our answers as follows. As to A, number 16, we responded that Long Island Sound is 1,000 feet to the north. Our correction is that Long Island Sound is over 1,000 acres in size. On question B12, our response should have been no. On question C6, we answered.
You have, the response to 12 is the surface liquid waste disposal involved. So
Right, there is none.
Okay.
On C number 6, we answered yes. The correct answer is no. On C7, we did not answer. The correct answer is RA80 residential use. Number C8, we answered yes. The correct answer is no. With regard to the full environmental assessment form, section B, government approvals, C, the Riverhead Building Department to obtain a building and fire construction permit. Clarifying DEC approval in G, although our entire operation is subject to DEC regulation and approval, the DEC does not regulate biofuel. And on I, URT is within a coastal area. Section C4D should add Suffolk County North Fork Preserve. Hopefully this answers all the questions raised. Please let me know if there are any other questions or comments. I might say that the nexus, I thought, of the letter really had to do with a gasoline project, which we at one time proposed and may propose again. It really has nothing to do with the biodiesel project. So hopefully that issue isn't going to be slow down this process, which is a completely different issue. Can I answer any questions?
I think that this is the public portion of it, so we'll invite people up from, did anybody else on the board have a question?
Yeah, you had indicated that this was a state mandate that you inject the biodiesel into the fuel. So why isn't that in your letter, just out of curiosity?
Well, actually, it is in the application. We and earlier we submitted the actual statute that requires it, but I was just responding to the issues that were raised in the letter from the Civic Association.
Okay. I'm just curious. So the state says, we want you to do this, and we're mandating that you do it, and you have to do it by, you have
July
a year
1st.
to do it. So what happens if you don't get approval from a town board or from a zoning board? What do they do then?
Well, I think we'd have to probably abandon selling home heating oil, since it's mandated that 5% of it include biofuels. I think that would, I don't know, we'd have to go back and check, but we can buy pre-blended biofuel, but that is generally not economic, and it wouldn't probably make sense from a business standpoint.
I was just curious. Thank you for answering
Certainly.
the question.
Swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do. Good evening, Madam Supervisor, Town Council members. My name is Linda Prizer. I'm the president of the Northville Beach Civic Association. Before I begin, I just would like to give a very, very brief history. Before there was zoning, both the town and the residents fought for the against the construction of these oil tanks in Northville Beach. Our predecessors were promised that there was a strict promise by the town that there would be no expansion of this non-conforming use if we consented to it. Unfortunately now, as I think you've heard Mr. Happy, he's now discussing possible diesel, and he's not ruling out gasoline use in the future. I think the problem here is that once there's a foot in the door, that door is gonna be pushed way open. We're not asking at this point to deny the request for the project, only not to vote on it yet until all of the questions are answered. And I have many more questions, unfortunately, after a really in-depth review of the permit. In the meantime, there is mixing that can take place at Calverton. This is the summertime. We don't have a high demand for heating oil. And there may very well be some more truck traffic, but we'll live with that in the meantime. It's not our fault that URT stalled in knowing that this law was taking effect, and we shouldn't be the ones who were punished for it. For example, we not only need to know all of the storage capacity at the oil tanks, we need to know what are the monthly sales. What's the highest amount that is sold in the wintertime or at any time? And why do they need to have storage capability to mix every single gallon of oil in that oil farm? Why can't it just be what they need at the highest month of sales? I'd respectfully remind the council that when we fought against the gasoline storage, they were only asking for two 19,500 gallon tanks. Now they're asking for storage capacity of 108,000 gallon tanks. And we are very fearful that this will degrade into storage for gasoline biofuel mixing. Okay, the additional questions that I have here are, with regard to B, the government approvals, little I, this is part of the New York State coastal boundaries map. It was answered no, that it's not in a coastal area. Under C, planning and zoning, C2B, it was also said no, but this is part of the Long Island Sound Coastal Management Plan. So the answer should have been yes, and that should have been identified.
I'm sorry, it was C2B, and what was the other one?
The other one was C2B, and we have to go back to B. That was B, little I.
Okay.
Okay. Under the project details, D1B, C, there is no total acreage filled in. Also under D1, little H, there's a question here. Are they creating a recharge site, or is this a recharge basin, or is this incorrect? It is very confusing, and they're not sure if there's a recharge basin or what is going to be happening. It just is filled in storm water and concrete under VI. So what exactly are they saying? Now, under D2, the project operations, under A, is there going to be an excavation? And if so, how much, and what is going to be done with the material from the excavation? Because this is not a level grade. Under D2C, it says, will the proposed action use or create a new demand for water? This should be yes, because the questions that are following are answered as if it was yes. So again, this is very confusing. The same thing for D. It's answered no, but then the following questions are answered as if it should have been yes. Okay, then I'm skipping over to, I'm sorry, it's application guide goes on here. D, M, again, this should have been yes. And O, this also probably should have been yes. And P, why is this left blank? And then E, the site and sitting of the proposed.
Letter E, okay.
Letter E, yes.
Okay.
E1, under B, is there going to be landscaping or vegetation removed? That's not answered. And then, extremely pertinent on this, under E1H, if you look at the DEC lists, there are over 20 spills since 1985, the most recent spill being in 2017. And they're saying that there's no database. This is a public database. Anybody can go on it and find these problems. We want to know what is being done to correct this, and in the future, we may have a real problem with the biofuel. If there are spills, what's going to happen if it goes into the sound? Also under F2, little f, needs answers. It's asking for the approximate proportion of proposed site with slopes. Nothing's filled in there. And then under E2Q.
That's E2 or F2?
E2, I'm sorry, E2, I'm sorry, F2, Q.
Okay.
That should be yes, with a description. Because the adjoining area is currently used for hunting and fishing, and they say no. Okay, and then finally, on E2H, we have to put in about the North Fork Preserve, which I believe was addressed. So we do have these questions, and we would ask again that nothing be determined tonight, and nothing be determined until all of these questions are answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, thank you. Next.
Good evening, Supervisor Jen Smith and members of the board. My name is Kathy
Swear testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy McGraw, and I am the Vice President of the Northville Beach Civic Association. First of all, let me thank you for convening this public hearing. It's very important to the people who live in the area of the URT. Let me start by saying I had the amazing good fortune of enjoying Northville Beach for a number of years as a child before the oil terminal was built upon its shores. Needless to say, I wish it had never been built. But over the last 63 years, we have, for the most part, lived fairly compatibly with the facility. We've had a few spills, we've had some issues, but the trouble really started when Mr. Katzimatidis bought this facility. You're well aware of the application 4 years ago for a special permit, and it was ultimately withdrawn. I have stated in a couple of emails to you that for us, the line in the sand is gasoline at that facility. And we're not unreasonable people. The state law mandating 5% biofuel additive to heating oil seems like a valid justification to add biofuel storage tanks, but only of a capacity needed for the output of oil, heating oil, at the racks at the facility. We just heard Mr. Happy say something that is not on the permit application we are completely blindsided by tonight. Namely, that those tanks will also be used for biodiesel fuel for customers. That has nothing to do with the 5% additive to heating oil. Absolutely nothing. And this is another example of how this facility is not straight up with the town or with the people living around it.
just gonna ask for the audience just to refrain from clapping during the, when somebody's publicly
Gives me
speaking. There's, I think, a lot of people wanna speak, so this way we can, go ahead.
The 108,000 gallon capacity was mentioned of the 6 tanks. And doing the math, that would be, at any given time, enough biodiesel fuel, if you're only using it as a 5% additive, to add to 2,160,000 gallons of oil. Now, we would like to know, over the past year, over the past 2 years, how much heating oil goes out of that facility? Do they really need 108,000 gallons for the biodiesel fuel to add to the home heating oil? I don't know the numbers because I don't have the answers, and Mr. Happy didn't give them to us tonight. It seems like the size is due to this additional use of selling biodiesel fuel to customers, totally unrelated to the state law. We also fear that these 6 tanks will be used by URT as a toe in the door, particularly since URT's attorney, Mr. Happy, in a gathering after the May 31st work session, told us aggressively, repeatedly, and in no uncertain terms that gasoline is coming and will be stored and distributed at URT. Thus, we have good reason for our fears. And to allay those fears, it's essential that if you should grant this permit, even though we didn't have the straight story when it was applied for, but if it were to be granted, written conditions tying the use of the new tanks and the contents of the new tanks solely to the state law mandating 5% biofuel additive to the heating oil would be necessary, because that's what that permit started out as. Turning to the environmental issues, I understand this is an unlisted action. Is that correct? Is that how the town is handling this? Can somebody tell me that?
We have not, Jeff, you want, yes, as an unlisted action.
Unlisted action. And so I understand that as an unlisted action, and I have reviewed URT's environmental assessment form. I have a few questions. The town has to get with all the other agencies that could have an interest in this and find out, notify them of the action and make a determination who's going to be the lead. Has that happened yet?
No. Jeff, do you wanna come up and explain some of this? Yeah.
Okay. We would like to know if that's happened yet, and whether the town will in fact be the lead agency. And if so, has anyone in the town done a written assessment of URT's environmental assessment form? Because I know the last time they applied for a special permit, such a written assessment was done by someone in the town. And has the town completed parts 2 and 3 of the seeker? And if so, has the town determined if an environmental impact statement will be required from URT? I also note that on the EAF, the environmental assessment form, URT said it did not need an air facility permit for this project. And I have a question about that. I spoke with someone at the DEC. My question is it because these 6 tanks, which will contain biofuel, don't require such an air facility permit, or is it because URT is relying on the air facility permit it got on June 11th, 2014 to install equipment to store and dispense gasoline? So the question is, do they need a permit? They answered no. I don't know whether that means they don't need one or they're relying on the old one. I also note that URT says in its project information concerning approvals that it needs DEC approval, but tonight we heard it doesn't. It said that it needs DEC biofuel approval. Tonight, they say they don't need that. It's really hard to get a hold over this situation when the target keeps moving and the facts keep changing. To sum up, we understand the need to comply with state law. We ask that any permit that is approved has all the questions answered that we have raised tonight, and that ironclad conditions would have to be placed on that permit, linking the contents of those tanks for use as a 5% additive in accordance with state law, for no other purpose. And let me just say, from our dealings 4 years ago, we have serious trust issues with Mr. Katsimatides. And that's why you see so many people here who live in that residential area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Jeff, just one second. Jeff Murphy, do you wanna just come up and explain the process for the unlisted, and then how the secret process works, and lead agency, and just the steps that we go through for it, so may clear some things up.
Good evening. For the record, Jefferson Murphy. The, pursuant to SECRA, the proposed application is an unlisted action, which means that coordinated review is optional and not required. Staff, has recommended that the town coordinate review, and you have started that process. That requires a minimum 30-day review or correspondence to the other involved agencies. I don't know where we are within that 30 days, but that has begun. Town has not established lead agency yet. That would require an action by the board with a resolution. We're not at that stage yet. Has the town completed part 2 and 3 of the environmental forms? I would have to check with our environmental planner, Jeffrey Seaman. And then the last question was, are we recommending an environmental impact statement? At this point, we're not making a recommendation until we get to that stage of the process, until the town, assuming it does, will assume lead agency, in which case we'll review it again and then make a recommendation to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, Bob.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Just a Bob?
John Cullen, Northville Beach Civic Association. I was going to present you all a picture of the facility here, where I Google mapped the distances between the project that they want to make and to their calculations. They did admit today that they're talking about 1,000 acres versus 1,000 feet from the project to the water. I was going to let you know that right here on Google Maps, it comes out to about 625 feet, the project, for being to the water. To the bluffs, I had it at 425 feet. I also just like to read this comment, please, and that is, there's been discussion of placing written limitations on any special permit the town may grant United Riverhead Terminal. Specifically, that these 6 new tanks be used solely for the purpose of storing biofuels to enable URT to comply with the state law mandating the addition of 5% biofuel to heating oil. They can be used for nothing else. Ethanol may never be stored in these tanks, nor may any other substance that could be used or may be developed in future to be used as required additive to the gasoline. Further, should the state law ever be rescinded, the tanks would have to be dismantled. We ask that these limitations be in writing as a part of the permit, and that our Civic be allowed to see these written conditions before any permit is approved by the board. We would also ask that a mechanism for assuring compliance with these conditions be included in the written conditions. For example, annual inspections. I also made a phone call to their competitor, and their competitor put in their biotanks over 8.5 years ago. So they're waiting for the last very itty-bitty second to go. They're due to start July 1st, which is right around the corner as far as the state mandatory releasing gas, heating oil to people's homes. Obviously, they have their other facility in Calverton, and they'll be using that much more. But I just want to let you know that other facilities have started this over 8.5 years ago, and we're getting crapped on in the last moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
You swear testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Good evening, council and supervisor. My name is Takwi Turchin. I'm from Riverhead. I'm representing the Greater Calverton Civic Association tonight as its secretary, in full support of Northville Beach Civic Association, President Linda Preiser and Vice President Kathy McGraw, in their thoughtful, vigilant, well-researched, and reasonable position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Swear testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Phil Barbero, Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition. First, I'd like to just address the point of whether this is a change in use or a special permit application. As far as I'm concerned, even if the federal law or the state law requires that this mix be put into home heating oil, it doesn't say it has to be done at this terminal. It can be mixed anywhere else and stored there. So the fact that the owner wants to put in tanks so that it can be mixed at this terminal is a change in use. It's not an expansion, it's not a special permit, it is a change in use. That permit or that facility was allowed to stay there as a home heating oil storage and distribution facility, not as a mixing facility, not as containing biofuel. So I think we're on the wrong page here. I think this is not a special permit. This is a change in use, and it needs to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals where it belongs. And there are very strict requirements for change in use, as you know, especially for a non-conforming use. As far as the environmental review, I think that was covered very well by Ms. McGraw. It's just that I think we need to carefully consider offloading at an offshore barge or shift platform and the storage and mixing in a residential zone, the transport of large quantities of hazardous materials, which biofuels are, and the use of local roadways not designed for large, heavy transport, the need for coordination with emergency response agencies, and these are each an impact that could trigger on its own an environmental impact statement to be prepared by the applicant instead of just going with the EAF. This application contains all these impacts. Therefore, this resolution should be rescinded and an environmental impact statement should be required and prepared by the applicant prior to any further determination on environmental significance by the town board. This is not a non-significant action. And as an example, the Town's Code, section 108-133.3A, requires the applicant to demonstrate that the proposed specially permitted use, quote, will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is located. This has not been done, and it cannot be done. Secondly, the Town's Code, section 108-133.3C, requires the applicant to demonstrate that the proposed specially permitted use will not be more objectionable to nearby properties than would be the operation of any permitted use not requiring a special permit. This has not and cannot be done. Finally, the issuance of a New York State bulk storage permit or air emissions permit or whatever DEC is going to give us for this proposed construction activity does not preempt the town's code or the town's responsibility to ensure the safety of its residents and the protection of its environment. So whatever the DEC does doesn't preempt us from doing the proper thing. It's more clear now that the real impetus for this application is that the URT owner has a desire to position the terminal as a regional supply location. Their own website still claims that its status as, quote, the only deep-water loading/unloading platform in the U.S. East Coast that is capable of handling VLCC tankers carrying crude, gasoline, diesel, and heavy fuel. That's on their website. That's what they want to do. Hello? We urge you to review this application in more detail and resist the impulse to rush to approval. It's clear to our organization that the impacts of these proposed changes to the current non-conforming use are not in conformance with town code, and if allowed, will produce a number of negative safety and environmental impacts on the surrounding neighborhood and on the town in general. We don't want or deserve non-residential and non-agricultural, industrial and commercial activities in zones where they don't belong, and which would endanger the safety or diminish the quality of life and the property values of our neighborhoods. The overall objective of town government with respect to non-conforming use is to gradually and eventually discontinue them, rather than to expand them and make them more of a hazard to the surrounding community. And I urge you to do just that.
Swear the testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Hughes. I'm a resident of North Walk, Sound Shore Road in Riverhead, about 3/4 of a mile from the URT. I want to thank you first for the unanimous vote to have this public hearing. I remember at the work session back in the spring, Mr. Happy, sitting right there at that table, said we didn't need a public hearing. He was revealingly frank on that occasion because he said back in 2014 when they were up here the last time, there were many ignorant comments made at that public hearing. Really, you were there, Mr. Wooten. You were there, Ms. Giglio. The board flipped that night and supported the neighborhood. So in effect, he was referring to you as having listened to ignorant arguments, which I thought was an insult. And that's why so many ignorant people are here tonight. Mr. Katsimatidis is not going to give up. Now he's back, though. He's posing as a portly Rachel Carson with his biofuels. Doesn't that sound good, biofuels? It's a state law. We have to do what he says. But who profits here? One headline, I'll just quote from one. Katsimatidis trying to slip pricey biofuels mandate into state budget. It may shock you that money gets things done in Albany. But now he makes and sells the biofuel, now he mixes the biofuel, now he sells it to the local oil dealers, and home heating bills on Long Island will only continue to rise. He's in this for the long battle, and so are we. Look at that clock, it's ticking, whether it's 2019 or 2020 or 2021. If you approve this mixing plan, he will be back, or Mr. Happy, or another highly paid advocate. They'll say, well, we've been mixing up there for years. We've had no problems. We're just going to convert some of it over to ethanol. We already have the permit, no public hearing necessary. Mr. Katsimatidis sees that platform. Oh, wait a minute, what am I saying? He doesn't see it. He lives in Quad. There are no platforms off his home. But he envisions Riverhead, if he thinks of it at all, as his gasoline mecca, and he will have it. John Katsimatidis and his advocates have zero respect for the beauty of our town, the safety of our roads, and the respect due to you, the elected officials. He cannot be trusted. We do not trust him. Our trust is in you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Swear testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Good evening, Town Board, Supervisor, and all elected officials. My name is William Charles Van Helmen. I'm the current president of the Greater Jamesport Civic Association, and I'm here to support our fellow civic group in Northville. And I'm kind of new on this, so I've been paying attention to a lot of things that have been said. And things that I've heard, kind of strike me in different ways. But the one point I want to bring up here is that all of us have, a need for URT to be here. It's a business that, does stuff in the town. Whether you're on one side or another, it's an entity that's been here for a long time. And, you know, if you don't have natural gas, you're using oil, obviously, to heat your homes, all right? But I heard a lot from them saying the term "they need," okay? And that's a right that they have to have their own needs. So as a resident in the area and a member of a civic group, what about the residents' needs, our needs, all right? And where do you draw the fine line to make them work, okay? It's an unfortunate situation that there is a state mandate that URT now has to utilize this 5% biofuel. It might actually even change their business model. As a businessman that I am, that sometimes things that are mandated onto you can really change your outlook for your model in your own business. All right, that being said, I'd like to read a section from this town law manual that I have on page 157, subsection 7-19, non-conforming uses. And it says, sometimes properties will be used in certain ways and zoning laws will be adopted that prohibits that use of that property. In other words, properties no longer conform to the local zoning codes and are thus referred to as non-conforming uses. Landowners have the vested right to continue to use their property in that way, and I believe they are. And thus the non-conforming use may continue. However, it may not be expanded. Additionally, one non-conforming use may not be replaced by another non-conforming use. In certain circumstances, towns may terminate a non-conforming use through amenitization. Amenitization period refers to a designated period of time granted the owners of non-conforming uses, during which they may phase out their operations as they see fit and make other arrangements. Validity, thank you. I'm a little nervous, I apologize. What you guys said of an amortization period depends upon its reasonableness. And I think this application is very unreasonable. It comes to a point that viability is not really here for this. Maybe it's unfortunate for the entity, but it's not a viable use right now, and maybe never. So I think you guys know what you need to do. Thank you.
You swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I
So
do.
help you God. Thank you.
Madam Supervisor, council people, council persons. My name is Michael Tachman, and I'm one of the trustees of the Northville Beach Civic Association. I'm going to be very short. It's going to be a hard act to follow with all my fellow residents who are so worried about what is happening here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for everyone here who might not have seen or had a chance to read the application what is on page 1 and typed in by the applicant. It asks for, quote, a brief description of proposed action, parentheses, include purpose or need, and parentheses. The answer, installation of approximately 28 feet by 48 feet pad with 6 biofuel tanks totaling 108,000 gallons connected to the terminal distribution rack to comply with New York State Law July 1st of mixing biofuel with heating oil and other products. How wide open are they leaving this?
Swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Susan King. I am a resident at the Highlands at Aquabog, which is just south of the Northville Beach area. But I as a resident and many of my fellow residents that are here share in the concerns of these local civic associations. I'm going to start with, I'm deeply concerned with environmental issues to be considered regarding the granting of this special permit by URT to construct a pad with storage tanks for biofuels. And just before I got here, I downloaded an article from the web, New York State of Opportunity, Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm going to read one paragraph from it. This is on biofuels. It says, emissions, health effects, and land use impacts associated with biofuels are not well understood. The State Task Force on Renewable Energy points out the need to examine environmental impacts of biofuel production, particularly on local water and air quality, as well as the land use impact from diversion of crops and the larger impact on the agricultural industry. In Nassau and Suffolk counties, our groundwater, which is our drinking water, has been designated a sole source aquifer by the state of New York. Unlike our neighbors to the west, the boroughs of New York City, who get their drinking water from the upstate watershed of New York, we live, play, and work on top of our drinking water. We've all read of the groundwater contamination and its subsequent spread throughout the aquifer that has occurred by processes that were done pre-regulatory by industry. We've also heard of recent illegal dumping of hazardous materials or wastes at our local parks and playgrounds. Cleanup is costly, and the potential health impacts to people while this is going on are still being determined. Do we really need to add a facility, to add to this facility production, storage, mixing, and transportation of these regulated industrial materials to this environmentally sensitive area? Except for this grandfathered industrial facility, it's residential, agricultural, and recreational. I urge the town council to not consider granting this special permit use.
Thank you. Did you wanna share your article? Did you wanna share the article with the board? If you can give it to the town clerk.
She'll make copies.
Yeah, you can email it if you like.
Just email it to us.
Swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Robert A. Skinner, Eileen Circle in Jamesport. I have no affiliations whatsoever. I simply live in Jamesport. And as such, my wife and I were having a conversation. The one thing that we're most concerned about, at 108,000 gallons to be blended from that's a lot of trucks. It seems as though that's a lot of extra vehicles on the road. No matter what the tax break is or whatever the benefits are in price-wise for our home heating oil, when the trucks break down the roads, it's usually our taxes in Riverhead Town that are going to have to pay for the roads. And that is our primary concern. Secondarily, and I know probably too much about this because my wife's family is in the agriculture business in Indiana. And the fears that the people so far have expressed about the potential for gasoline coming in vis-a-vis the the ethanol situation. We've all heard President Trump talking about wanting to push ethanol to 15%, make it mandatory. The current price of corn on the Chicago Board of Trade is horrendous. And because it is horrendous, there are now movements in the Midwest to start buying up all this corn that nobody's able to sell And in the state of Indiana alone, there are three, according to my wife's family, there are three ethanol producing plants that are currently in mothballs that they're looking to take out of mothballs because it's going to be a very profitable venture because the price of corn is so low. Now, this is going to take time to manifest itself, so it's not anything that's going to be done in a couple of days. But between these two factors, I think the fear for gasoline for an entity that is run by a very astute businessman is something that has to be taken into consideration. And so any covenants or verbiage that you put in to make sure that the products utilized in this facility are strictly for the intended purpose, I think are mandatory. And lastly, what Mr. Van Helmen said about from reading and the non-conforming use. I think that says it all right there. I don't see how you can go any further. Thank you.
You swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Vincent Lyons. I live at 37 Foxglove Row in Riverhead, which is in the Highlands. I'm a neighbor of Susan King, who spoke earlier. And I have a couple of questions, and hopefully either you or Mr. Happy can answer them. Can you assure me that biodiesel itself is not being fabricated at the facility or as part of the plan?
Is it being fabricated? That is not what the special permit is asking for.
Okay, so they're not creating biodiesel
Not the production
and
of
mixing the
biodiesel.
components of biodiesel.
It's, the special permit is to have the storage tanks, have it come in mixed, and then it will be mixed on site with the home heating oil.
I appreciate that information, because I was very concerned initially when I heard about the mixing tanks and whether they were fabricating biodiesel. But it does seem that they are fabricating a product. And as the gentleman before me and the gentleman a few minutes ago spoke about, it's a change in use, and I think it's very important that it go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and not be considered as a special permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Happy, did you want to come up and answer some of the questions that were raised?
Thank you for the opportunity to answer the questions. I made a list of a few, and I'm sure you may have some as well. First of all, as to the other products that would be blended at the rack, the only other product is diesel fuel. And it's a very small part of the business compared to the 40 million gallons of heating oil that we sold last year. The diesel fuel part is less than 10% of that. Today,
I'm just going to ask you a couple questions.
Yes.
The 40 million gallons were at all of your facilities? Or
no, just at the Riverhead facility. About, it's less than half of that at the Calverton facility. But when biofuels were adopted really as an improvement to the entire environment, part of the use of biofuels is in diesel. And so some customers, it's not mandated, but some customers of diesel fuel want the bioproduct because it does reduce emissions. So while they're at the rack, we can easily blend diesel fuel with biofuel as well as the heating oil. So those are the only two uses that can be made of the biofuel at that facility.
And do you currently store diesel there?
Yes, we store millions of gallons of diesel. And by the way, I'm surprised that the audience doesn't seem to know that we're permitted for storing gasoline, have stored gasoline there in millions of barrels for many years. In addition to that, we have the right to store ethanol as well. So those are not really issues about whether or not we're permitted to have gasoline. No one here has complained about any of the gasoline storage. Never been a problem. It's very non-invasive or problematic, and it's not an issue tonight.
Are you currently storing gasoline there?
We don't have any there now, but in the past, we've stored hundreds of millions of barrels of gasoline there. There are three tanks that are permitted for gasoline.
And when was the last time you stored gasoline there?
We bought this company about 4 years ago, and we never stored it during the time I've been there. When the time before with Phillips 66 and the prior owners, they had extensive gasoline business there.
Do you know when that ended? What year?
I don't know. I only know my period, which is none, but the air permits, we have to share with you that permit us to store that. And we can also store all the ethanol we want as well. Secondly, what is the volumes? As I mentioned, last year we sold 40 million gallons of heating oil from the Riverhead facility, and the roughly 105,000 gallon tank for biofuels is a tiny number compared to the total that we sell. But I don't know, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, but the engineers have determined that to do the volume of business that we do for only 5% of the product, it requires tanks of that size. Also, as to the issue about additional trucks, there is no volumetric change. If we put 5% of biodiesel in the heating oil, that's 5% less of heating oil. So the total volume stays the same. In other words, if we sell next year 40 million gallons of heating oil, 5% of it will be biofuel, but it won't increase the number of gallons that we're selling just because we're blending. It all remains the same in terms of volumetrics.
I think one of the other questions, and if you don't have the answer now, that I think maybe could be supplied, was the average monthly sales for the size of the tanks for the mixing. So I guess your highest capacity months, which I assume would be during the winter, for the need, how much biofuel would be mixed during your high capacity months?
Now, of the 40 million, almost all of it is sold during the cold months. During the summer, people don't buy heating oil. Some do just to fill it, because the price goes down, so people buy heating oil in the summer because it's cheap, and then they store it in their homes, in their tanks. But the vast majority of our sales occur starting in October and ending in March. So virtually all of it goes out during that time.
But the biofuel is constantly infused into the heating fuel, so these are storage tanks, so if a heating fuel tank runs low, then you just bring in more heating fuel, and then you have the storage of the biofuel to infuse into it, correct?
Correct. It's a constant flow. You're always having to add more, put biofuels in those 6 tanks in order to mix with the regular heating oil. So it's a constant renewal of the
it's a flow.
Supplies, a flow.
I noticed in your letter that I didn't see Suffolk County Department of Health Services, which I know that sometimes you need an Article 12 permit for the containment dikes for the oil tanks. Is that an approval that you'll be seeking also?
I
And
don't
you would
know
probably
that.
know.
Is there some of our crew that know that? I'm sorry, I just don't know the answer.
Well, I've heard a lot of concern about spills and things of that nature, and I know that anytime you're putting any type of heating fuel or any type of oil into tanks, that there's specified containment dikes in Suffolk County Department of Health Services regulations to make sure that if there is a spill, there's bells and whistles that goes off, and there's, calls that are made to local fire departments and things of that nature. So I'm sure that you're gonna be required to get that permit as well through Suffolk County Department of Health Services.
I think we already have all those. This is just a really small little slab with 6 small tanks on it.
I know,
And
but you
it's
still need
it's
the containment
encompassed
dikes.
by the dikes that are the containment facilities. I don't think it's necessary to do it again because it's already protected. Any other questions?
I think a couple of the questions that was asked by the audience, there was some with excavation, how much will be done, landscape and vegetation removal. There were some questions as to that, I guess, to putting in the platform, putting in the concrete base in there, how would that be done?
We've got our engineer here. Can you answer the question? Because I don't know.
I think on your application, it was referring to, D2A, and then the other one was E1B on the application.
Swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. My name is Stanley Coates. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a consultant to United Riverhead Terminals. I'm afraid I don't have the documents in front of me that you're referring to, so if you have a specific question, I'd be glad to answer it.
I don't have the document in front of me either. It was one of the questions that somebody from the audience asked. I think we can probably provide you with that information if we could have those questions
Sure.
Answered before we close out.
I could certainly address, you talked to the excavation, for example.
Yes.
That one I think I can address fairly easily. The 6 tanks are envisioned to be stored, to be standing inside of what looks like a very small swimming pool. That's that roughly 30 by 50, I'm not sure if I'm saying the right numbers, but roughly 30 by 50 foot swimming pool. And the purpose of the swimming pool is for secondary containment. It's absolutely not a requirement of the, I believe you said Suffolk County Department, because biofuel isn't regulated by them. Nevertheless, United Riverhead Terminals is planning to have secondary containment, which is what that's called, and it'll be a concrete spill containment for those tanks. The sizing of the spill containment is as if it were a requirement, which it isn't. It holds the amount of one tank, if one tank were to spill, plus a reasonable amount of rainwater. I suspect that's around 6 inches of rainwater. Does that answer that question?
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to do that. There was a question as to.
I think with the soil from the excavation, where is the soil going?
The soil is going nowhere. Right now, that is a sandy area, and the idea is to excavate down approximately 3 feet so that you can put in foundations just like you would on a small home. This isn't even a small home. It's the size of maybe a couple of sheds that you might have in your backyard. And excavate down just to put the foundations in so that the tanks are structurally sound, and then backfill the very same soil into the very same place, right up against the foundation. So no soil is being brought in, no soil is being brought out. I'm using the word soil generically. It could be sand or whatever is there. No earth of any sort is being taken out or brought in.
And the topography of this particular area, is it flat or is it sloped?
It's right sort of at the transition between a sloped dike that's there today and a flat area between 2 existing storage tanks, and is going in that flat area right at the bottom of that slope.
So you won't be cutting into the slope?
We'll be cutting into the slope only long enough to put in the containment wall, and then backfilling the slope back to where it was.
So I have a couple more questions about, because, you know, when I understood this, I understood that the heating oil, the biofuel was just being used to be mixed with the heating oil, and then I see here it's for the diesel biofuel also. Why that change? Is diesel regulated to have biofuel? Is this the state regulation? Just some clarification on this?
The answer to that is that some customers want biodiesel to be added to the diesel that they're buying because they may have a corporate policy that they want cleaner fuel. So
is it a current state regulation? Is it a state mandate?
There's no requirement of biofuel for diesel at all. That's simply customers that would like to have it for air quality issues. Big trucking fleets are particularly interested in that.
So you're not gonna have individual cars pulling up, you're gonna have the big tankers that are coming
Right.
to collect the...
Absolutely, it's just regular tankers that go today to get our diesel will just have, at the same rack, have some biodiesel added to it, which doesn't change volumetrically, it's just another use of the biofuel.
In terms of flammability, where does biofuel fit in, like in comparison to gasoline, to heating oil, to diesel?
Well, it's much, much less volatile, but there's actually somebody that knows more than a lawyer. Go ahead.
Biofuel is a combustible, and it's much less combustible than any of the other products that we've been talking about. So if I can put some perspective on it as an engineer, and you may not share my opinion, what Mr. Happy's been saying all along is, if, for example, you were putting 1,000 gallons of product into a fuel truck that was driving away, before, it was all petroleum fuels. I think the purpose of the mandate from the state is to reduce that total petroleum demand and supply by putting in some bioproduct. And the bioproduct is about 5%. So instead of having this 1,000 gallons being put in a truck, you're putting in only 995 gallons. I'm sorry, did I do the math right? You're putting, I said that wrong, I beg your pardon. You're putting in 5% biofuel instead of petroleum fuel. And so that's what the whole mandate is about, is you're trying to put in a product that's A, slightly less combustible, B, much less, has much smaller effect on the environment as it's being burned. That's the purpose of this mandate, if you will.
Just out of curiosity, where are you getting the product to make the biofuel from? Is it from New York State, or is it from the Midwest? Is it, you know, how many acres? Is it any of it from New York State?
Very little is made in New York State. Most of it's in the Midwest, but it depends on if it's biodiesel. Much of it is a result of used cooking oil and yellow grease that comes from rendering plants and whatnot. Very little of it is soybeans because the expense is so high. So traditionally, biodiesel manufacturing is done with various kinds of what they call yellow grease, which sounds horrible, but it includes the recycled vegetable oil, like from McDonald's and others. Most of it comes from that.
I think one of the concern is from the last time that you were here and asking for a special permit. I think one of the concerns that was raised by people here is having some of the tanks with gasoline, and then adding ethanol to that, and then changing the non-conforming use to the gasoline. That's not currently done. So what kind of, you know, I know that when you had come before the board, you had asked just for the home heating oil for the biodiesel. So when you put these tanks in, will it just be for the diesel that you're currently doing? Do you have plans to either add any ethanol to that, to convert some of your tanks over to gas? What is, you know, what is it, the plans there?
Well, there's two possible plans. One is the gasoline plan, which we came here 4 years ago about, and the other is this biofuels plan, which is totally different. And we agreed earlier that we would only use them for biodiesel, not ethanol. So it's not, no one should be concerned about that, because we're not planning to use it for ethanol, and wouldn't even, you can't even use it for, you can't put ethanol in home heating fuel either. It's strictly a gasoline additive.
And would there be any way to convert some of these tanks to ethanol at some point if you?
Well, you could put ethanol in them. I mean, they would hold ethanol, but we've said we won't. We're not going to use, and you wouldn't. You wouldn't put ethanol in heating oil or in diesel. It's a gasoline additive.
But I think some of the concerns of the community, and something certainly that the board has struggled with before, is that at some point, and as you said, that you can put gasoline in some of the larger tanks that you have.
Sure.
And that some of these tanks can have ethanol. And then that one concern that the community has will come to fruition. So is there, or you know, how are you going to address that? Will you decommission these tanks if they're no longer used for the diesel that you're currently doing in the home heating oil? You know, what is?
Well, these 6 tanks are only good for injecting a product into our rack. So at the present time, we aren't, if we wanted to create a gasoline project, we would have to have a lot more permits. There's other things that, like in our prior permit, that you would have to do gasoline. I mean, theoretically, today, we could, with our 3 tanks that are licensed, we could put gasoline in one tank, ethanol in another, and blend them in a 3rd tank, and then send it to the rack. But that hasn't been our business plan, and that's not what we're intending to do. But we could, so that doesn't require any permitting, and it has nothing to do with your permitting process. So that's out there, and so if anyone doesn't understand it, I mean, that has already been established many years ago that is our legal right.
That's the great thing of a special permit for the town, because we put the conditions of what.
Right, and we don't need a permit to do that. If we wanted to, we could.
We call the shots and
So that's why we're not coming to you asking to do a gasoline project. And if we did want to do a gasoline project, in which I fully expect that we will be back here with a plan for gasoline. There won't be anything secret about it. And to do gasoline, you have to have ethanol injection, because legally you have to put ethanol in the gasoline.
But I guess that's my question, for these tanks here, I think what the community was asking, will they ever be is there a plan, or will they ever be converted over to ethanol?
Not unless we came before you, because I've said that we will agree that the permit will provide that we can only put biodiesel in them. So as a result, we'll never, if we wanted to do ethanol, then we would have to come back to you and ask for a permit to change the use of the tank from biodiesel to ethanol.
And then you would be willing to put a condition on that for monitoring?
Yeah, well, certainly. There's no attempt to evade anything. This is just exactly what it is. That's what we want, that's what we're asking for, and we have no problem standing behind it.
So if the special permit were to be issued, would you have any objection to random testing by our fire marshals coming and taking a sample and testing it to make sure that it's not gasoline?
Not at all.
Or ethanol?
Or ethanol.
Yeah, no, there's zero problem. You know, our records are available to the fire marshal. It's not an issue.
Mix ethanol with heating fuel in it.
You can't. You can mix it with gas, but he's saying that he can put the gas in the tanks. He can convert one of the tanks to gasoline under the permits that they have.
Can you?
Well, those six little tanks couldn't be used for gasoline. They could be used for ethanol.
Right, and do they work independently of each one going to the rack, or are they connected?
They're connected together to the rack. Now, how, I don't know. I mean, we have the engineer here.
Can each tank hold something different?
Each tank can hold different products. They're just a vessel, so you could put anything in there you want to. But in terms of permitting, what we're saying is that we will agree that the permit should provide that it's for biodiesel only.
To be used for home heating oil?
Well, I'd like it to say home heating oil and diesel, because it makes no sense not to allow the diesel to have higher quality products with less air pollution. But the reason we're doing it is because of the heating oil. But then as a side benefit, we learned that would also help in terms of getting biofuels in diesel, which I think is strictly an environmental plus. And again, not increasing truck traffic or any detriment of any kind. Any other questions? Sure.
Yeah, if there's somebody, you have to go back up to ask the question. One other question that somebody brought up was the air facility permit. Not needing to do it, or the one that was issued in June of 2014?
It's not needing to do it. The 2014, we did get a gasoline permit for blending gasoline at the rack. It is legal from the standpoint of our permitting. But that's not why, this has nothing to do with gasoline.
I'm just reading my notes here, just trying to see
I
what
remember
else.
when Metro first came to town, I think it was in 2010 at the Grumman facility, and there was every politician from the governor down to the state elected officials and the county elected officials and environmentalists that were, you know, very pleased to see a cleaner burning oil, which is the biofuel. So, you know, I understand the state's reasoning for wanting to put a cleaner biofuel into the heating fuel so that cuts down on the fossil fuel consumption and everything else. So it's, you know, it's a tough decision that this board has to make, because we do listen to the constituents and their concerns, but it sounds like the biggest concern that they have is the gasoline. So I think if we can.
Well, I think their biggest concern is gasoline, which
and
isn't
the trucks, which you're saying
relevant.
that there aren't gonna be any.
Trucks doesn't change, but then.
It's a trust issue, that's all. It's a trust issue.
Well, we've never violated the law yet, so I am too bad.
So,
Good answer.
another question that was asked, I guess in the application that you filled out about the description of the area used for fishing and hunting, I think the answer might have been no, and the question was, should it have been yes?
I didn't fill out the form. The reason I think no is right, we don't permit fishing or hunting in we have around 300 acres there, and we don't permit any fishing or hunting in our property. So I'm sure that's the reason they said no. I'm sure somebody may be fishing and hunting around us, but what we're concerned about and what the permit relates to is our particular, I believe it's 280 acres, and that's all I can really speak to.
And then one of the other one of the other things that was brought up was that, I guess in one of the questions about spills, and the answer was, I don't know where the area was encompassed, but there it was listed as no spills. And then somebody was saying that there's a database of spills that I guess get reported, and why wasn't any of that included?
We haven't had a spill while I've been involved, but I don't know. I mean, I didn't fill out the form, but it is true that there is a database that's maintained about all spills in any petroleum facility, even gas stations. So it's all available to the public if there is a spill.
I think it was a question on the application, and it was put no spills instead of a check of maybe if you could go back and take a look at that.
Okay, we'll take a look and see, because I think it was accurate, but.
And then one of the other questions was project details, no total acreage. I'm not sure if that was total acreage for
It's
what
such
you
a
were
tiny
doing,
little piece.
or
It's
whether
less
it was
than.
a project total size.
I interpret that as the size, and it's beyond, it's not even a tenth of an acre. It's a very tiny, a few hundred feet is all it is, square feet.
And I know that you guys had agreed, I think originally the plan was to put it more in the parking lot area over by the racks, that you guys have agreed to move it back behind the berm so it's not visible from the street.
Correct, yes. In fact, the site plan has that change in it.
And my other question is, how do you track trucks coming in and out when you say there's gonna be no increased truck traffic?
Well, I was just going on mathematics, because if we sell, what would differ in the amount of truck traffic is how much our sales department sells. Last year, we sold 40 million gallons. The fact that 5% of it is biofuel makes no difference on truck traffic, because the volume is still 40 million gallons. It just happens to be 5% of it is biofuel. If our sales department does a great job and we sell 50 million gallons, there'll be more trucks. But this has nothing to do with that. It's not a function of how many gallons of fuel we sell.
Okay. Did you wanna ask?
Okay, go right ahead.
I had one more question.
Supervisor, just a couple of points here to clarify.
Dick, I wanted to ask one more question.
Oh, sure.
I think
Okay.
they had asked before if, is surface liquid waste disposal involved?
No.
Okay, because there was no response on that.
Somehow we left that out, but in my letter, we corrected.
Okay.
A couple of points to clarify. Let's go right to the truck traffic, which was addressed at the work session. Currently, we send trucks, tractor trailers to the facility from Calverton empty. And they fill up and bring the material back to Calverton for distribution as part of our distribution network. When we say there's no increased truck traffic to be created from this particular special permit application, the empty trucks will then have biofuel, which will fill up these 6 tanks, because the biofuel will be sent to Calverton either by truck or by rail. As Jody knows, we have a rail spur there. And so those empty trucks will be the same empty trucks that go there now. They get the thing that they're going to come back with the material now, but they go there empty, so they'll bring the biofuel there. As far as the total project area is 29 acres. We have 280 acres total. The project area is in this particular section of our 8 parcels that we have on the property, which is 29 acres, which is north of Sound Shore Road. That is one area there, one tax map, one individual lot. That's 29 acres, and that's how we listed it on the application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I just see there's a couple more people, I don't know if, a couple more public comments, and we'll see if there's any questions.
There was a woman here that didn't get hers yet. I'd rather have somebody.
Well.
Did you wanna say, did you wanna say something? Or you answered? It's good?
No.
Swear testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Michaela Grimm, and I'm a resident of 862 Sound Shore Road. And I was just a little bit perplexed on two things that Mr. Happy had said. In the question of when or how specifically much biofuel they're selling, they sell it during the winter, but we know that. I think every business team would have a very specific answer for that, so I think he's just obfuscating the entire conversation with this large group of people. I think you could ask for a very specific answer. Equally, if he's saying there's no more truck traffic, he's implying if you've already sold 40 million barrels or tons or whatever, and he's implying an additional 5% increase with the biofuels, then he's mathematically implying that there's gonna be a 5% basically increase in sales, increase in traffic already.
That's not what he said.
I think the fuel just, I'll let Mr. Happy answer.
Okay,
but
maybe I
think
misunderstood that,
it's
but to
not-
me it just implied basically 40 plus another 5% of the
I don't think it's 5% increase in sale. What it is each gallon that's being sold will be mixed with 5%. It doesn't automatically mean an increase in the total volume of sales if the volume is based, $1 a gallon.
Maybe I
So,
misunderstood
yeah.
that, but to me I just,
95% of the 40 million will be fuel and
okay, so it's not 40 plus 5%. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
then, sorry, thank you.
I think it's really important to remember that what we're dealing here is a request for an expansion of a non-conforming use. And as Phil Barbado pointed out, this is even a different use. It is definitely an expansion of a non-conforming use. And the law says you look to reduce non-conforming uses, not expand them. And let's also remember that Mr. Katsimatides is a big-time businessman in the business of pushing and selling biofuels. You put these tanks up there, and there will be many, many more trucks of biodiesel going out of there. He wants to expand this incredible resource of his that has the deepest water platform on the East Coast. And he is pushing to expand. Your obligation as the town board is to contract non-conforming uses, not expand them. And this is definitely inconsistent with the surrounding area. Mr. Happy nonchalantly tells you that they have the permit and they have the right now, to store gasoline, to store ethanol, and to combine them. He stood up here and said that. Yes, they have a state facility permit from the DEC that says they can modify 2 tanks and that they can put in ethanol tanks for blending. But they can't do that without the town's permission of a special permit. They can't do that. That is an expansion of a non-conforming use. So for him to say that they can do it and they have been doing it, it's just not true. I talked to a former manager of the URT, it wasn't URT then, Gene Bernstein. He was the manager of the oil terminal for many years, as was his brother. And he told me that they very rarely had gasoline in those tanks. And they never, ever had gasoline dispensed from the racks into gasoline trucks, because the racks were not equipped to do that. They never did it. Well, then clearly that would be an expansion of a non-conforming use. And further, the storage of gasoline, if you go to your town code, if you abandon a non-conforming use for a year, you can't resume it. You have to go through the zoning board. You have to get permission. You cannot. Once you abandon a non-conforming use for more than a year, you have given it up. And so Mr. Happy may believe he can store gasoline there, but that is a non-conforming use. And there was one other thing I wanted to say about the gasoline, and it escapes me in the moment, but clearly it is a non-conforming use and a much more dangerous use. But That's neither here nor there at this particular time. We're talking right now about a non-conforming use and an expansion, mixing things, expanding biofuels, which is what Mr. Katzimatidis' business is. And you can be sure they're looking to expand their business here. Why do you think they didn't tell you in the permit that they were going to be selling biodiesel? And they simply relied on the state law. I just don't trust these people, and I don't think you should either. Thank you.
I would just like to present, please, to the board.
Thank you.
The list
These are the
of the
questions
spills.
you asked.
It's the list of the spills that on the application, they say they can't get it. Well, it's on the DEC website, and I would like to present.
Thank you, because
Thank you.
Mr. Happy, you had corrected one thing. You had corrected that originally it said that the sound was, it was 1,000 feet. The sound was 1,000 feet to the north, but you corrected that the sound is 1,000 acres in size, but what is the distance from the project?
Can I answer that technically, because I helped in the application? Okay, we made an error in the way we answered it, because that's not what the question is. The question is, are you located near the body of water? And the answer is the Long Island Sound. Then it asks you, remember this CEQA application forms are for not just coastal areas, but for inland. So you might be near a lake, so they want to know. So the real answer is what we provided you in the letter. It is, what is the size of the body of water? And it's in excess of 1,000 acres. I don't know how big the sound is, but that's what the answer, so the correct answer. We answered it correctly. It never was about the distance from the bluff.
I know, but I'm asking you.
It's about 500 feet, 440 feet to the bluff, and probably another 600 feet to the shore. That's going to be part of the site plan application, because those details are in the next phase. Because after, as you know, after tonight, or in the future, if we get a special permit approval, we still have to go through site plan, which will also require another public hearing.
One other thing that I would like to correct, and that is the fact that John Kazmatidis or our company is in the biofuels business. It's true that we bought a company a few years ago called Metro, and Metro was planning to build a biodiesel plant in Brooklyn. Over time, that plan has been abandoned, so we're not in the biofuels business at all. Everything that we would be buying here is strictly on the market from other producers. And again, it has absolutely nothing about us. We had no desire for this at all, but it was just the state law, and that's why we ended up with it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board at this time? No? Okay.
Leave it open.
What was that?
Leave it open for whatever time.
Yeah.
It's not 6 months.
Bob, so for this, I would just close the public comments, or should I leave it open? Leave it open. But what if I want to leave it open? Should I let them finish answering these?
You can adjourn it another day, or you can close the written public comment and leave it open for how long you think you're gonna need in order for the written comment.
So I can adjourn it till the next town board meeting, but just stay open for, I think they need to finish answering all the questions for there's a lot of questions that are not correct on the application, that they corrected here in person.
Do you want further written public comment, or do you wanna have them respond to it?
I think the public should be able to come back and ask again, though, because I mean, this is,
No, I disagree. They had questions, they're here now, they ask them now, they get an answer now. It's that simple. They're not gonna drag this out.
the question is whether to close the public comment portion and leave it open for written comment, or to leave it over, to adjourn it to the next town board meeting to allow the applicant to answer some of these questions that were on the permit application that were brought up. for correction. I think some of them were,
I think the way we've always done it is to close it, leave it open for written comment. As far as a resolution approving or not, that can be held in abeyance until we're satisfied with all the questions that have been posed,
okay.
right?
I think it allows the public to come back and comment on it once the
Through their
special
representatives.
application
If you have a question, come see
permit.
your representative and we'll make sure it gets answered for you. That's all I did.
All right, we'll leave it over to, when is the next town, the next
I have
day
a
of the
final
town?
question, if I can be sworn in.
July 3rd?
Well, the hearing's still open, so.
So, just 1 second.
July 3rd is the next meeting.
I know, but I'm just looking for the date before that because I'll leave it open until, yeah, that's fine.
June 30th, you said July, right?
July 3rd
July 3rd
is the next
is
town
the
board
next
meeting, so I'll leave it open till July 29th, June 29th. Okay, Angela, go ahead. Bob, do you wanna?
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so?
Yes, I do. My question is that it has been raised this evening that perhaps this application is for a change in use of a pre-existing non-conforming use, and therefore a special permit is not the appropriate avenue to pursue for this. And my question with regard to this is that when will the board make this determination as to whether it is indeed a special permit application is appropriate, or it is a change of use application and therefore needs to be done in a different avenue? And when will that happen? Because if you continue just with a public hearing, it's almost as if you've made a decision that it is a special permit use, period, and that's
think
it.
we're gonna
And the
address
question has been raised.
We'll address it.
We're gonna
I think
address
that-
that right now, I think, Angela.
Okay, thank you.
With Mr. Murphy.
I think it's a special use, a special permit.
That decision, it rests with the zoning officer, and that would be Brad Hammond, and he has made that decision that there's an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use and thus requires a special permit from this board. So he has made that decision.
Thank you.
All right, so I am going to close the public comment portion, but I will leave it open for written comment till June 29th, but we will ask, Mr. Nelson there's, some questions that have been raised by the public. I hope that you've taken notes on them. And if anybody from the public can submit their written comments, and maybe you can directly then address some of those.
Yeah, as a follow-up to what I said in the beginning when I handed you the letter that we responded from the Northville Civic Association, we're going to we're going to correct some of the questions that were either left unanswered or need to be correcting, and I'm going to hand another document over to the planning department and for the town board. I'll file it with the clerk, and we'll make it available to the association too, as part of this, keeping the written comment going to the 29th.
And will you be attaching the state legislation to your special permit?
We did already.
Okay, but you're looking to go beyond what the state's requiring?
Well, actually, we said that in the application itself, the other fuels, and we should have put diesel. That was our mistake. We currently distribute diesel fuel up there, so it's just to add the biofuel. It's not required by state law, but it's something that some of our customers want, maybe 1 or 2% of our customers. So we just want to be up, this is the time to disclose that during this process. So.
But you'll be amending the application?
Well, it is amended already. It says other fuels, but we'll clarify diesel fuel only. And as far as the covenant goes, Mr. Wooten, Councilman Wooten is correct. The town board writes the covenants. Okay, we consent to have the covenant on these tanks only for this purpose, for the heating oil and for the biodiesel fuel, and never to be used for ethanol. So whatever language that the town attorney and the town board's comfortable with, in cooperation with the, in consultation with the association, we're fine with. Mr. Happy's already said that we would be, consent to any type of inspection on a regular basis. The fire marshal, anybody, our records are public, except for a Homeland Security protocol, which is locked in a safe and approved by the federal government. Everything else is available.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. At this time, if anybody would like to come up and comment, or on any of the resolutions for this evening?
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton. Resolution 493.
Yes.
This resolution,
Sal, you wanna just wait one second?
This is wait for everybody to get out first. All right, take it outside. Van Helman.
There you go, and then, if you wanna change that, you can just go.
Now it's up there, right, now that it's set.
If everybody could, that will not be participating in the rest of the meeting, if you could just exit quickly so we can get on with the town board meeting. Thank you.
Could we just, can we go outside? She's like at church.
When I go 1804, 9, 3.
Getting out of the aisle, she knew how that works.
Oh, 1804, 9, 3, so it's gonna come up here. Now, if I click on this again, to get out a large group so fast, it's gonna turn up blue.
Thank you, Meg.
So instead of erasing it and having the days on
You
the
know,
493 again, you
we
just
should
go
make
to
them
the
sit for the
arrow
whole
to the
meeting.
right.
That's the only right
Here's
thing
the
to do.
blue, and then you can change the last 3 numbers.
If everyone could continue to exit out of the room, please.
Whack that gavel, woman.
Because I can yell louder.
Whack it.
Ma'am. Okay, Sal, go ahead.
Resolution 493. It's for a notice of public hearing, and it's for Chapter 301 zoning and land development. And my question is, why did you delete the entire section and rewrite the entire section, making it almost impossible for anybody who wants to comment on it to find out what changed between the two? And in addition to that, you're going to pay to have both of them put in the public notice in the newspaper. I tried looking at this to see what was different, and everything I read was the same with the exception of the last section, which is 301.210, which doesn't appear to be in the rewrite. You
Go
want to
ahead,
answer
Bob.
that, Bob?
Explain it, yes.
I don't know if I can explain it in very short terms, but part of this is due to getting this piece to our code book folks, the journal code, so that they understand that there's a repeal of what's currently on the books in order to re-adopt this legislation. It's recited in a lot of the whereases what happened here.
No, I read all the whereases, and I understand that things changed over time. But if you want the public to comment on it, the way you did it makes it almost impossible unless you put them side by side and read line by line to find out what changed. Whereas our old method, which is underscore or cross out what's being
there's any real
deleted.
substantive changes on this.
There's not. There's not. It's a re-adopt
To
to
re-adopt
cure,
in order
to
to
cure what
comply
happened in
with
court. What happened in, we were unsuccessful in court, and we have to put it back on the books. So it's a re-adopt, but the only way to make sure that when we send it up to the State Department of State and send it to General Code is that they understand that what's on the books is being cleansed, and what's being put on the book is what was done in 2004.
Okay, well then let me ask the question. Did you purposely leave out 301.210? Was that a mistake?
That was done, that was a later revision, that was not part of the 2004 legislation.
So that was by
invalid.
design,
That was
leaving
by design, correct.
210 out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because that's good.
Well, that was something that was done subsequent as opposed to what was addressed in the court action.
You answered that fairly well.
No, but it's good.
That was it? Gee. All right, so we'll move on to resolutions.
Okay, resolution 463.
463 is a budget adoption for the Water District Test Well Program. So moved.
Hit escape.
And Jody's gonna second it.
I am gonna second it.
You second?
I'm waiting for Tim to get back up to speed.
Yeah, we're playing catch up over here.
Well, you only had 2.5 hours to get the thing done.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, you can. Okay, I second.
Okay, moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 464.
Authorizing removal of fixed asset records from system, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 465.
Authorizes fire marshal to attend fire sprinkler plans review class. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 466.
Authorizes highway superintendent to attend 2018 APWA PWX conference, so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 467.
Accepts the retirement of a police officer. So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes, I wish Officer Roberts the best in his retirement.
Giglio.
Yes, he was a great officer, he'll be missed.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes, and thanks you to Officer Roberts for his 24 years of service to the town, we appreciate it.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 468.
Amends resolution number 5, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes, this is
Resolu-
just a Scribner's error for a $40 difference in salary on this one, it wasn't anything.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 469.
Accepts the resignation of a maintenance mechanic 1. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
I said yes in between the cough.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 470.
Appoint seasonal traffic control officer, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 471.
Ratifies the change of status of part-time police officers. So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 472.
Extends bid contract for diesel fuel, so moved.
Seconded.
Bad one.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 473.
Authorization to publish advertisement for food and meat products for the town of Riverhead. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 474.
I don't know if you want, we can take these 474 through 479 together, if you like. They're all appointing, personnel to the recreation department.
I know, but some are beach attendants, and some are
It's-
lifeguards, and some are,
You can do it by resolution number, so you can do resolution 471 through 479 and accept them all together. If you'd like to do them separately, we can, but it's acceptable to do them together.
You can do them all, but I think just for the record, if you would just
Four
read the
seven four.
titles and then we'll group
Do them all together? Okay, is that all right? Okay, so can I have a first and second for resolution 474, which is appoint seasonal beach attendants to the recreation department, 475, which appoints seasonal lifeguards to the recreation department, 476, which appoints call-in attendants to the recreation department, 477, which appoints call-in recreation aides to the recreation department, and 478 appoints a seasonal assistant beach manager to the recreation department, and 479, which is appoints a call-in park attendant two to the recreation department.
I'll move them.
Good, I'll second all of that.
First and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolutions 474 through 479 are adopted. Resolution 480.
Awards bid for snack vendor, Stotsky Park, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 481.
Awards bid for snack vendor Wading River Beach, Iron Pier Beach, and South Jamesport Beach. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 482.
Resolution to change town board meeting time, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes, this was, in the beginning of the year, we had scheduled 2 daytime meetings for July, so it's just changing one of the meetings till the July 17th meeting from 2 PM till 6 PM.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 483.
483 accepts the donation of a tree in honor and memory of Pauline Sandman. Sandman. So moved.
Sandman.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Should be 2 ends throughout.
2 ends,
Yeah.
okay, I'll make corrections on it.
Okay.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
I just have to say something about Pauline, because she was a great representative, and she was really great for the Manufactured Homeowners Association and for the parks throughout Suffolk County that meet here once a month, and she was a very strong advocate, along with the Board of Directors, for the Manufactured Homeowners Association, and may she rest in peace, and I wanna thank her and everybody for putting this tree forward to commemorate her. Thank you. Yes.
Where are we putting it?
We are gonna put it actually on town hall property here, I'm not sure the exact spot, to be determined.
All right, I vote yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 484.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a lease agreement with Big Belly Solar Inc. for Telebelly waste containers. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 485.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law. What's that? Yes? Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to table resolution 485, sorry.
I'll second.
This, I put in a call today to Brad, and I wasn't able to have a conversation with him about this, and I have some questions about it, so I would like to make a motion to table this.
And I'll second it, because in the spirit of transparency, this is legislation that was drafted between 2 members, that was directed to draft this legislation by the supervisor. It did not go through code revision, and it was never discussed publicly by the town board. So I will definitely make a motion to table until we can discuss it publicly.
Okay, motion to table, first and second, vote please.
Kent,
No.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Absolutely. Transparency.
Wooten,
Oh, yeah, it's good government, yes.
Jen Smith.
I'm okay to table it until we can put it on for next work session.
that's fine.
Resolution,
Yeah,
483.
I have some.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, I think it's a great plan for the environment and.
Right, looking
So I
at
think
the
it's
meat and
really-
potatoes of it, it looks like a good idea, but I
Yeah.
know nothing about it or what the emphasis of it was, so I
Well,
don't-
if people have questions, I think absolutely. I think originally we were, somebody from Suffolk County was supposed to come and discuss it with us, and at the last minute for whatever reason, they didn't come, and I think then there was a schedule to go actually look at the systems, so.
I always
to-
get leery, just from being here for so long, I get leery when I see new legislation, because I don't know what spurs it sometimes or where it comes from, but I know we've talked about different things, especially in Jamesport area, along with estuary and the watersheds, so.
Yep, no,
it's
that's
worth a discussion.
absolutely fine. If there's some question about it, we can certainly have some more information before we vote on it. I'm fine.
Okay, to continue, resolution 485 has been tabled. Resolution 486.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend procurement policy pursuant to general municipal law. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Well, I'm very pleased to move forward with this. I think it's really important to get apprenticeship language in place. Certainly promotes education and training and ensures that we'll have better safety and strengthens the middle class. So, all good. I vote yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes to the public hearing.
Jen Smith.
Absolutely.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 487.
47 approves the application for fireworks permit of Riverhead Business Improvement District Management Association for Thursday, July 5th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes, it's gonna be a great night in downtown Riverhead, so everybody
Get
come
there
down.
early.
Get there early.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 488.
approves the application for fireworks permit of Joseph Kick, private wedding at Giorgio's Baiting Hollow, Saturday, June 30th, 2018. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 489.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Eastern Bays Company Incorporated to allow the installation of floating upweller systems known as Flupsy in East Creek. So moved.
Sorry, Tim.
Flupsy?
Oh,
So,
you
seconded.
said moved and seconded, vote please. Oh, now I'm gonna have
Kent.
the giggles.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Between Flupsy and
Flupsy.
two L's.
That was an
Resolution
oopsie on
490.
Flupsy.
Ratifies the appointment of an interpreter for the Police Department and Justice Court. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution
We
491.
have a few of them actually. Ratifies the appointment of interpreter for the police department and justice court. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 492.
Authorizes a one-year renewal to the professional services agreement with Q and Fourth Development, Inc. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Yes.
Giglio. Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 493.
Authorizes town clerk to make referral to Suffolk County Planning Commission and to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to add Article 42, transfer of development rights to Chapter 301 entitled Zoning and Land Development of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 494.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice.
Just a second on that, did you wanna is it, I know you had questions about this one, is this one you wanted to?
Yeah, I actually would like to take another look at it.
Okay, so then you just asked to,
Table
Table
it.
it?
yeah.
What is this?
Okay. So I make a motion to table resolution number 494 to take another look at it.
I think this is the one we had talked about, the trailers and the boats.
Yep.
Just a few things to be cleaned up.
I'll second the table.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Absolutely.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 494 is tabled. Resolution 495.
This authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a notice for requests for proposals for comprehensive energy management services. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 496.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301 entitled Zoning and Land Development of the Code of the Town of Riverhead. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 497.
Grants appeal and authorizes issuance of taxi cab operators permit. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 498.
Amends policy restricting the use of aerial surveillance, including unmanned aerial systems, drones, virtual globe map, and geographic information programs. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
This was from Bob.
I don't
Bob, do you
remember
wanna explain
discussing
this one?
at work
In
session.
2000, yeah, this was in the packet,
So,
2010, the town adopted.
just let me, where are we right now? We're moved and seconded?
Yes, we're
Okay,
up
so
to.
moved and seconded discussion, okay.
We're in the middle
I
of a
just,
vote.
are we in the middle of a vote?
Yes, Jody.
Oh.
Yeah, but we can have discussion in the middle of a vote, as
Yeah.
we have before,
Yeah.
so Bob, if you
No,
could
that's
please
what I'm,
explain it to
that's
me,
what
that
I'm
would be
trying to
great.
figure out, if we had just first and
Yeah,
seconded.
this policy, this was,
Discussion. Was it
um,
second?
to add drones to the current policy, which was adopted in 2010. If you remember, there was some discussion with the use of Google Earth to Yes.
Yeah,
Backyard pools.
because we didn't
Yes.
wanna be
And in
eye in the
2000
sky
right.
spying on
Big
people's
Brother watching and
backyards.
all that.
Correct, so in 2010, the town board adopted a policy with respect to the use of that, technology to
So-
do eye in the sky surveillance. This is adding drones to the
Okay.
mix, so that drones will be similarly regulated.
Okay, yes.
Wooten,
Shoot, I'm gonna lose my drone now. Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 499.
This sets the date and time of the Great Riverhead Cardboard Boat Race. So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Hoping Riverhead wins this. I vote yes.
Hubbard,
Absolutely, yes.
Giglio,
yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 500.
Approves chapter 255 application of Riverhead Foundation for Marine Research and Preservation for the 21st annual 5K Run for the Ridley, Saturday, October 20th, 2018. So moved.
Seconded,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 501.
Appoints one-time marriage officer. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 502.
Amends resolution number 253. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 503.
This reappoints members to the Conservation Advisory Council. So moved.
Do you wanna do 503 and 504 504 together, since they're the same?
Yes, and 504 also reappoints members to the Conservation Advisory Council, the difference being different term limits. Some expire sooner than others.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes. to
Hubbard.
both.
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolutions 503 and 504 are adopted. Resolution 505.
Extends bid contract for well and pump service for the Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 506.
Riverhead Water District budget adjustments. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 507.
Oh, this awards the bid for removal and disposal of sludge cake and grit and screen waste. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 508.
Ratify sewer district capital project number 20049 budget adjustment. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 509.
Awards bid 211 East Main Street sanitary sewer improvements, Riverhead Sewer District. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 510.
Approves Chapter 255 application of Big Bounce America LLC, Long Island Sports Park, June 22nd through 24th, 2018, June 27th through 30th, 2018, and July 1st, 2018. So moved.
One second.
Oh, sorry. Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
How are they with their site plan?
They have their preliminary site plan, and then they are going for their, final site plan approval the day before this, the 21st.
This was just scheduled, just brought to the town's attention yesterday. This operation at Long Island Sports Park has done this time and time and time again over the past couple of years. They don't wanna play by our rules, I don't wanna support their program, so I vote no.
Giglio.
I know that we asked them to come into compliance, and they finally did file a site plan, which I was happy to see, and the supervisor's saying that they will have their site plan approval the day before this event, and if that's the case, then I'll support it and vote yes.
Wooten,
Yeah, I think it's important that if we can use this leverage to get them to comply, that's probably a good thing, but yet this is a perfect location for these type of events, you
I
know,
couldn't,
so.
I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more.
I know.
But do it the right way.
Yeah,
And I'm
beat 'em over the
tired
head
of
with it.
seeing this.
I know, I feel
Well, I
like
think that,
frustration.
I'm gonna vote yes, but I'll make sure I go down there that day and take him into that big bouncy house and see what happens.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, they have other things scheduled to occur up there, and we've received nothing on it. It puts our planning and building department behind, there may be some overtime involved, now we're sending police officers up there. I have a problem with this property, because they do not play by the rules.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll vote yes now, and I'll make sure I see him.
We understand what you're saying, Tim.
Jen Smith.
I will vote yes on this.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 511.
This authorizes the termination of the license agreement and terminates all use of town property for the location of garbage dumpsters and use of area as a solid waste collection site between the town of Riverhead and the downtown Riverhead South Side business owners. So moved.
Before I second, I wanna thank Tim for all his hard work on it. Yes.
I
I'll
heard this
second.
was coming on it.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
You wanna get my Irish up again?
That's why we put these together.
This has been a long time
Yes.
coming. We have tried and tried, working with the business owners downtown, predominantly the restaurants, to take care of that garbage corral that's in the Conic parking lot on the south side.
Oh, it's absolutely horrendous.
And it's been more disgusting now than it's been in recent time. Our town workers have gone down and cleaned it up because it's been so bad. They have no business, they should have no business there cleaning up that mess. We've tried working with them. This was set up a few years back to try to have a central location, so some of the restaurants are tight in their rear spaces where they have to maintain a dumpster, but they've taken complete advantage of it, and it's a disgrace to go down there. So I'm very happy to put this up, and we're gonna rescind their use for that town piece of property, town-owned property, for the dumpster corral, and now each business is gonna have to go out and provide their own dumpster right behind their own facility. And let's see if they take a better care of it, because if I'm going into your restaurant and I'm walking past a dumpster where there's stuff shred all over the place, I'm not going in your restaurant. So it's gonna hopefully kick them in the butt and make them clean up their own act. So yes, I'm very happy to vote yes for this.
Giglio.
It's definitely a good thing and a good improvement to downtown, yes.
Wooten.
Right with Agnes Jackson. Yes.
Jen Smith.
Well, I mean, it is disappointing to have to go this route, but if we're to revitalize downtown, we cannot have a parking lot full of trash with gates open. As Tim said, he has tried to work through this with the business owners. I've tried to address it. Code enforcement has tried to address it. Our Buildings and Ground has tried to address it, and to no avail, so.
Not only that, but I can tell you from the country fair with all the vendors, we used to have vendors had to stand next to that. It was
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
No, trust me, I
Absolutely.
know, I was out there the other day because somebody was bringing their trash out, and there was steak bones in the middle of the parking lot that I had to go back and ask them to go clean up. So, it's, you know, unfortunately that it's come to this, but it has come to this, so I vote yes.
And I'm just gonna jump in on all that. I went over, the town workers told me that they've cleaned that up probably 100 times.
Absolutely.
So it's been a problem a long time, and as I said to some people, what I wanna see back behind town along the river really is green space, not green dumpsters. And I was over there the day that, the town worker was cleaning it up, and it isn't just restaurant stuff. People are dumping there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bad location for it. The day I was there was a mattress there, so, it's obviously, I'm so happy we're moving forward with this. I think we're all in agreement.
Yep. Good.
Okay.
Hope comes down tomorrow.
Resolution 511 is adopted. Resolution 512.
Pays the bills, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Are we doing,
Does any-
513.
Yeah.
yeah, are you interested in?
One coming off the floor.
Well,
I make a motion, we pull resolution number 513 off the floor. This ratifies the appointment of a seasonal summer recreation staff to the Recreation Department.
I'll second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yep.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 513 is taken off the floor. Now we'll call Resolution 513.
This ratifies the appointment of seasonal summer recreation staff to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Seconded? Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
I don't like generally, when you, Laura, taking stuff off the floor, especially things that could have been done in a timely fashion, but because these are our beaches, and it's forever, no pun intended, flowing back and forth with employees, it's probably the last minute thing, so I'll vote yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, we are done with the resolutions. If there's anybody that would like to come up and address the board, please come up, state your name. And can I just say that before I forget, before everybody leaves, we have the art show outside. If you take a look, we have a new art exhibit outside, so please take a look at it, and it'll be up there for a bit, so.
John McAuliffe, Coalition Against EPCAL Housing, live in Riverhead. I was gonna go longer, but given the hour, I'm not gonna do that for all of our benefits. First simple question, can you give us any guidelines about the time frame on either the ethics question or the Q&E?
The board is waiting for the decision from the ethics board. The ethics board has met. They have not been they are still investigating, still trying to get some answers to their questions that they have not been able to get to this point. So they are scheduled again to meet on July 10th, and at that point, they will update us on their status.
They haven't asked any questions yet.
Okay. So in any case, obviously, it's not happening until later in the summer at this point.
Well,
We'll know it, they'll be,
after the ethics
yeah.
about their
I mean, they could meet again before, their next schedule, they could meet before that, but as far as I know, that's their next scheduled meeting.
Okay. Second thing is you will be receiving, because of the way we've set it up, responses or people sending in, signing the petition, calling for the inclusion of covenants in the contract. The time frame of that obviously depends on whether or not you think the contract is final or not, and I know there's argument about that. If it is not final, then I think the discussion of covenants is relevant after Q&E vote takes place. If there is a decision, consensus, whatever process that makes you decide you can't touch the contract, then I think it's most useful to have that conversation, or whatever you would do internally on those covenants, as a potential separate document that could be sent to 555 and see what the reaction is, so that you can take that into consideration in the Q&E process. But that's the only other thing I want to say on that list that I've sent to all of you, and you'll be getting copies of as people sign the petition, is that we made one error that a very pro 555 person pointed out in the dialogue, in the online dialogue, which is by focusing the first one narrowly on aviation, we were excluding other forms of science and technology, and we didn't mean to do that. The intention was simply to say that the actual end use should be determined in ways that cannot be simply ignored in the future. So that's the third one, having to do with gambling. Some people say it's nonsense and it's not a risk. I have, as I've told people already personally, I've heard from 3 credible people that say that that's out there, and if it's not out there, then great. If putting the covenant in and barring it would flush out whether that's a real problem. And the final one, of course, is that if we can find a way to reclaim the 1,000 acres, I think that would be very desirable. The last thing, I think that's basically it. I think I appreciate the immense amount of effort that was made in the earlier conversation about the oil and the Metro fuel thing. That was very impressive. The seriousness with both the community and you folks handled it. So thank you for representing us all very well on that.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anybody else? Seeing no one, can I have a first and second to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye, aye, aye. Good luck.